We cannot live in a truly developed world without equal opportunities for both countries and their citizens. Equality at the core of all sustainable development goals. Together we can empower, promote the social, economic and political inclusion of all people, irrespective of age, sex, disability, race, ethnicity, origin, religion, economic or other status. And that's why today we're focusing on the gender equality of reducing inequalities. And doing that with me is Urban Woman Editor-in-Chief and Media Executive, Blessing Iyemadike. Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
All right. So, you have worked in the media space and you know exactly how inequality plays out, both of sexes, of ability and disability, race, religion, all of that is amplified in the media. What is your keen observation in Nigeria where we stand regarding inequalities?
So I think that with regards to inequalities, we're just starting to have a voice, as women generally are just starting to have a voice when it comes to hearing how they feel about certain situations and stuff, right? And I also feel that women are still women are still variables in society. Like, we've not gotten to the point where the society feels like, oh, women are, I know they say it, but we're still variables.
It's more of like lip service when it comes to action.
Yeah, they pay lip service, yes.
How do we as a society reduce inequalities?
Okay, so basically, I think reducing inequalities should start from the very basics, from the childhood of a person. Do you understand? The children should actually be taught. I honestly think feminism should be taught in secondary primary schools. Do you understand?
Okay.
Not maybe what they see on media. Do you get? But the basics of what feminism is. Because you hear people say, oh, I'm not a feminist, but I believe that. My dear, if you believe in gender equality, you're a feminist. It's just, what is feminism? Gender equality. What do you get? So you cannot be believing in gender equality and not be a feminist. So I believe that everybody from the basics should be taught what gender equality is, what feminism is. Should be taught about the inequalities that exist in society.
Yes.
They should, because there was this video that went viral on Twitter, and it was a mother teaching her daughter about certain situations and how she should protect herself. And people were like, why are you teaching this girl? She doesn't even know so much. But do you realize that women actually get molested even from when they are children? Do you understand? Yes, because my first experience with sexual molestation was probably when I was 6 years old. Do you understand? So, if people had even taught me then that when this happens, talk to somebody, let us know and everything, I think I would have been in a better position to actually overcome that situation. Do you understand? And if people had taught those boys also that this, you don't do this, you don't do that, because these boys are raised with the idea that they have the right to a woman's body, they have the right to everything. They own the world, basically. And it's not, when we talk about inequalities, it's not even just about sexual assault, sexual molestation. It also boils down to workplaces, you understand, where somebody says, oh, I'm paying him this because he's a man, he has a family to feed, but the woman, I'm not paying her that because who is she feeding? It's not really your concern who is being fed or who is not being fed. Do you understand? The most important thing is that the job is being done, and you need to pay me for the job I do. Do you understand?
Yes.
And many women don't even know how to negotiate. These things are this is basically the inequality in society. Many women don't know how to negotiate. Many women don't know they don't know how to, they're not self-aware. They're not taught to be self-aware. They're taught to defer to men. And that is not how a human being is supposed to be brought up. Do you understand?
A whole being.
You get? So, women should be taught how to be whole from childhood. Men should be taught about these inequalities and what it entails, basically, about gender equality, about feminism. They should be taught and sensitized from when they are children, because there's just a lot of things that people say, men say, even women, and then you're like, oh, please. We had a whole presidential aspirant from 2000 and what was the election?
Yes.
2000 and when did we have it? 2019.
2019
election. Say I'm not a feminist. What does feminism entail? Is it my
She's
friend?
running
Is
for,
it my
you know.
friend who will not cook for her husband? I mean, you are a learned person. You are even a lawyer, because I actually did I went to read about her. You're even a lawyer. You're a learned person, and you cannot grasp the meaning of feminism. Like, is it too much for you to handle? Like, do you understand? Feminism is what has paved way for you to actually be able to run in this society that we are.
All right, so taking it back to what our sustainable development goals are for this decade, we have gender equality, we have reduced inequalities as well. Because that one is more encompassing. It's not just gender, it's religion, and it's race, and it's all that. People don't quite use the word feminism because they think it's political. So is it okay to say if you're going to the roots, what is the focus on if we're trying to maybe get it to be more accepted?
Okay, so if you're going to the roots, I think the focus should be more on teaching boys how to respect women's bodies, women's space. Do you understand? Teaching girls how to be more whole and to be more accepting of their own bodies.
Okay.
Because you have women who don't even, they can't, I know women that can't pronounce sex.
They can't say it out loud.
They can't even say it out loud. It's like in hushed tones. Like, don't say it out. Do you understand? So things like this. I'm not saying that they should be pronouncing sex everywhere. I mean, I'm just saying that.
From that, I think that is coming from a modest a point of view. Do you think religion or maybe culture has a role to play in that?
Yes, culture has a big role to play. Religion has a big role to play. I don't want to come off as a, what do you call it? I don't know how to put it now.
Anti-religious.
Yes, I don't want to come off as anti-religious because I'm actually quite anti-religious. I'm a God person. I love Jesus Christ, but when it comes to religion, I feel like religion in Nigeria is terrible. It's just not it at all. Do you understand? Culture also is just, you have places where a woman cannot inherit property. Why? Yeah. You have places where a woman cannot rent house. Why? Like, what is the problem? This is our way of life. Do you understand? So because I have a vagina, how, I don't know how to put it. Do you get, like, what makes a man special as in about himself? Does his sexual organ make him any more special than me? Do you understand? Like, it's just something that it's a whole lot. Do you get? It's not something that can be done in one day, in 1 year. Do you understand? It's a whole lot, because I feel like a whole generation has passed away before you can fully establish gender equality. Do you understand? Especially going back to the grassroots, because even when you're teaching these children, by the way, I read an article about these Ghanaian teachers, their community or whatever, they were protesting sex education being taught to their students. Yes, because they were like it's making the students to be promiscuous. Do you understand?
And then things like this are mostly targeted at the
girl child, because they won't bat an eye if it was the male child who was doing all these things, or if, do you understand? It's because it's the females. I don't know. It's just. And there was one time, I once heard a teacher say, when we were not teaching sex education, nothing was happening. Now we're teaching sex education, it's now getting worse. Which one is even better? And I'm like, dude, this thing has always been there. It's just the media is amplifying it now because the media has come into play. Do you understand? It has always been there. Like, you've always had people molesting people. You've always had people raping people. In short, like, there was a time when you could not go to a show past 7 o'clock as a babe. Do you understand? What are you looking for there? You either get molested, grabbed. Even look, it was just last year we had the Market Woman March. Even till now, you go there, they still grab you. They still touch you. They still, like, you literally have to walk and be holding yourself and be like, God, Jesus, have mercy. Do you understand? It's really, see, living as a woman in Nigeria or in Lagos is frustrating. Come to talk about when you're living on your own, living alone.
You've mentioned trying to educate us, because education is a huge part of this advocacy. So what role does the media have to play in all of this?
I think there's a lot the media can do, actually. So let's start from the filmmakers, for instance. Can filmmakers stop making films where women are practically being beaten and practically being stripped of every honor that they have or dignity that they have. Can filmmakers stop making films that don't portray women in a great limelight? Do you understand? Because it looks like we're projecting or we're showing that, oh, these are the things that are wrong. But you know that the more you show these things, the more it gets enforced or ingrained into the minds of people that this is how it should be. So if you don't want something to stick, you have to get away from that narrative.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Okay.
So that's what filmmakers can do. We need to start telling great stories of ourselves. We need to start telling better stories of ourselves. We need more women in the media so these women can actually tell better stories about. And that's one reason why I actually started Urban Woman, because I wanted to actually focus on telling stories about women that people don't hear. Do you understand? I mean, everybody hears about the woman who is making 30 under 30 in Forbes, but nobody hears about the woman who started a business yesterday and is really struggling right now to make ends meet, cater for her family, and at the same time, do you understand, she's pushing for her goals and everything. Nobody hears that story. Do you understand?
Crushing smaller goals.
Do you understand? Nobody hears the story of the woman who wakes up as early as 4 a.m. to meet the truckload that is coming with tomato and pepper that is landing in the market that she will empty and set up her stall for 7 a.m. markets. Nobody hears those stories. Do you understand? So that was why I started Urban Woman, because somebody needs to tell this story. Somebody needs to go to the grassroots and tell these stories. Do you understand? And so I feel like that's one way the media can actually help. Like, I love what Iyemadike is doing. She's a role model for women in entertainment. I also love what Abudu has done for herself. She's also a very big role model for young people, or young women. Do you understand? So we need more of those role models. Before we had Iyemadike, before we had Abudu, we didn't have many people we could look up to. Do you understand? Before we had Adesua Itomi, before we had Tony Tones, it was being an actress or being in the entertainment industry as a woman was looked upon as, oh, you're now a runs girl. But now that industry is beginning to take shape. More women people are beginning to see more women as professionals in that industry. So that's one thing I'm also proud of, and I think that's one thing we also need to work on as a collective people. So I think the media has a lot to play.
All right.
You understand?
And then there is, news, traditional media, newspaper, television, news, radio.
Yeah, so newspapers and televisions, radios, they need to stop being biased when telling stories. Imagine writing the story of a Busola Dakolo, for instance. Am I allowed to name names?
Yes, please.
Imagine writing the story of a Busola Dakolo and then writing it in she allegedly there's just
the tone.
There's a tone. Do you understand? Like it's filled with sarcasm. I'm like, what went through your mind when you were writing this story? Do you understand? You're writing the story of you're writing for a feminist mag, or you're writing for a woman magazine, and you're complaining that the magazine is writing too many women's stories. Okay, should they add men's stories to this thing now so that you can just be satisfied? What's that the issue?
So language has a huge role to play.
Yes.
I mean, I remember one of the inspiring CEOs that we have today. There was just a double-page newspaper spread which she claimed she didn't give, and the headline was, "I still kneel for my husband." Like,
oh my god, that broke my heart. I'm happy she came out to clear that she didn't give that. It's
interview.
Also like, you see what I mean when I say these people actually need to, I think they need to go back to school to learn how to use language in this new generation or in these new times that we're in. Because I don't see why you couldn't list the achievements of this person. You couldn't talk about her journey from when she started. I mean, there's a lot people can actually learn. There's a lot people can actually see from the headline and be like, oh, I want to be like her. The lady who is in primary school, the lady who is in secondary school will see that headline and be like, oh, I want to be like this woman. So you are telling me now that you, who is a publicly read newspaper, the primary school girl should see that and be like, I want to be kneeling for my husband. Like these things are not really, like, I once lived with a lady who told me that, like, she had like 3 businesses. So I used to ask her, so what does your husband think? She's like, babe, my husband and I right now, at this point of our lives, are more interested in making our family name stronger than who is going to cook for me. And that made me like, oh my god,
it made you rethink.
It made me rethink a lot of things. Like, okay, wait a minute. There's some things I just so yeah, it made me like, go back to my drawing board and be like, what kind of man do I want to get married to? And it also helped me to realize that the man I want to marry is also as important as the father of my children, because I want a man who sees and understands the importance of feminism and equality and gender balance. And because I may not have male children, I may not have only female children, do you understand? What if I have a balance of both gender, or what if I have like only female children or only girls? I want somebody who can actually imbibe the right values into these children and make them understand that, okay, you're female does not mean that you're any less than the boy. You're a boy does not mean that you have a right to the woman's body and the woman's space. Bringing it back to when I said these things need to be taught at the grassroots. Yes. Imagine in a family where you have like girls and you have the boys, and then the boy wants to eat something as little as Indomie, and you tell the girl to go and cook it. What are you really trying to send to this? What kind of impression are you creating in the mindset of these people? Do you understand? So it's really important. Little things matter. Little things matter.
So what role would you say the men have to play in reducing inequalities?
I think that first and foremost, the men should tell themselves the truth.
Okay.
Do you understand? Because I feel like a lot of what I see online, a lot of conversations that I see on Twitter most especially, are all lies. Because these people have mothers, these people have sisters, these people have aunties. They can't tell me that they are blind to their problems. They can't tell me that they are blind.
But I mean, I think that's how the privilege bubble works. Because you don't necessarily you don't see it. You are desensitized to like the problem that a woman faces. So a man and a woman can come from the same home, and the man will blatantly blurt out that he doesn't think equality is such a huge problem. Not quite realizing that while he went for football practice on Saturdays, his sister stayed back to cook Saturday meal. So it happens that people are truly desensitized from these problems. Like, while we're here, able-bodied people, we easily go to the ATMs and we can easily say that there is accessibility. But most of those ATMs don't have disabled ramps. So it's really easy to not think about a problem that is not yours. So do you think that there is that possibility?
Yes. So I feel that's where it all begins with, it all goes back to the fact that you need to start from the grassroots.
Okay.
Do you get? So if you start from telling these young boys at a young age, if you start from showing that, pointing the problem to them at a young age, I feel like it will be a better society. Like they will grow up realizing that these are the problems. They will grow up realizing that, you don't do this or you don't do that. Do you understand? We're not brought up that way. Do you understand? Because I have male friends who were brought up well. Do you understand? And they recognize the problems.
Okay. All right.
So, and then also I feel
so it's not impossible.
It's not impossible. It's not totally an impossible task. Do you understand? Also, like I said, men should tell themselves the truth.
All right.
Do you understand? Because they see these things. Do you get? It's one thing to say yes, they are desensitized, but after desensitization has happened, what happens? What happens next? Do you now decide to be blind towards it? Do you understand? Do you get? Do you now decide that you want to, because you want to support your fellow man because of a certain bro code? It's just a lot of things. A man who rapes a woman, and then you guys men are still like championing him and still like calling his name out for. Really, what are we really? Do you understand? I feel like men need to tell themselves the truth. There was something that somebody said. I was watching an award program. I've forgotten the actress who said it. She's an international actress, and she said that for women, society defines who a good woman is. For the men decide or define who a good man is. That we need to start defining who a good man is, and until we start defining who good men are, these men will keep pushing the bar as long or for as far as they are comfortable. Do you understand? A good man is a man feels like he's a good man. Even if he just raped somebody, he feels like he's still a good man. Even if he just killed somebody, he feels like he's still a good man. Even if he just trampled on somebody's rights, he feels like he's still a good man. Because he didn't do it to his mom, he didn't do it to his sister, or he did not pass some level of some bar that he has set for himself. Do you understand? So we women need to start setting the rules or the standard for what a good man is. Until then, we are not going anywhere.
Okay, so I want to talk about the human rights aspect of this, because with inequalities, one person's right has been trampled on. And when we're talking about gender inequality, it's a woman's right that is most likely been trampled What sort of care is available for women that have suffered human rights abuse that has come as a result of gender inequality?
Okay, I think thankfully today there are a lot of institutions that's springing up to help women who are in this sort of situations. Do you understand? So I think that first, I think women need to support each other in their close circles. When they hear that other women are or have been through something, they need to learn their voices to them. They need to come together, because I mean it's devastating what some women say to each other. You tell somebody that, well, look at what you've gone through, and they tell you that they're sorry, they can't relate because they would never be in that situation. That's not what I want to hear at that point in time. Do you understand? I'm looking for somebody to confide in. I'm looking for somebody who's with my backbone. And I'm also happy that the government of our day is beginning to, even if they're not, it's not where we want it to be. But it's beginning to recognize that there are certain things that are missing. I mean, even Lagos State government, I know that they have like a domestic violence office in Alausa.
Yes, they do.
They have the Ministry of Justice that also handles cases like this. Do you understand? So there are a lot of channels actually. There are a lot of there's money, mentally aware for women who probably have gone through some sort of sexual abuse, sexual assault, and want to, find a
counsel.
Yes, counseling. There are also like a lot of volunteer lawyers who have volunteered their services, and I think it's just basically about talking to the right people. Do you understand?
So we've talked about this other kind of human rights abuse that has been a result of gender inequality. There is also unequal pay. So unequal pay doesn't necessarily look like a woman is being paid 20,000 naira less just because she's a woman. It's systematic. This is systemic. It looks like a woman taking longer to get promoted. These days, these things are a little bit hard to prove, but they are obvious and they're all around us. What do you suggest, like, to the government? How can we institutionalize this so that women don't suffer these forms of financial abuses as well?
I think the government already has certain things in place when it comes to maybe the Lagos State government, so I know about, because my mom works for the Lagos State government. All right. So I think they already have certain things in place. Do you understand? So for instance, I know they have salary structure. You get? So your salary is not dependent on your gender.
All right.
I also know that I also think that the government can actually do a lot more. Like make rules or make laws whereby if you feel or if you know for a fact that your rights has been trampled upon in those areas, then you can actually speak out and
take it up,
take action. Also, I think that more women need to be taught about how to negotiate, basically, because more women don't know how to negotiate. They always feel like, I mean, there was a time when I went for a job interview and I was thinking, oh, how much should I ask them for? So I was like, do I ask them for 70? Do I ask them for 150? Then I got there and I'm like, okay, 150 plus 20, that's 170. So I said, okay, I want 170. And the guy's like, I thought you were going to ask for more.
Oh, okay.
So that was like a wake up call. Like, okay, you people.
Is that what you people are doing?
Wow. Okay, well, next time.
Okay.
Ask me again how much I want.
But I mean,
so I think more women need to learn the art of negotiation. More women need to know that their work actually matters. Do you understand? Because when you feel like your work matters, then you can actually have the right to actually ask for more.
Put value to it.
Do you understand? Women need to be taught to always ask for more. Like, never stop asking. Ask for more. Ask for better conditions for work. Ask for, if you have a baby, talk to your boss. I want a crèche, or I want a mini crèche where I can put my baby.
Where more women like us, and it benefits every woman.
Yes, because the moment you are there, women should not look at it as, I'm going to be the only woman at the table. No, you are there at the table so you can create an entrance and for suitable working conditions for other women who are coming to the table. Do you understand? So I think more women need to actually be speaking out these days. Ask for favorable work conditions. Okay, I have 3 children at home and it's not really working. Can I do some work from home on some days?
Okay.
There are organizations that do work from home.
Okay.
In 2 days or today.
Yes.
So more women need to actually speak out about these things.
Okay.
That's basically it. And more organizations also need to be sensitized to realize that the person's gender should not affect how much they pay, because it's the same work they are doing. It's the same work output.
Same output. All right. What does the future look like for Nigerian women?
Well, the future is very bright. That's
Okay.
number one.
All right.
The future is very bright. I think that more women need to come out and speak out.
Okay.
More women need to speak up. The media needs to continue. The media that already does the great work should continue. The ones that are not really, you should pick up.
Right.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I think the future is actually very bright. 2019 gave me a lot of hope. 2019 brought a lot of freshness. I saw more women speak out. I saw more organizations do things. In basically like as a follow up to these women speaking out. I mean, there was this really beautiful story I heard about after the women's march in Yaba, where somebody said she went to buy something. Somebody attempted to touch her, and the man said, "Don't touch her."
Touch her.
Do you understand that? As in,
The awareness.
I
is
was
there.
so happy. Like, see, if that's one thing that we got from women's march, I am happy. Do you understand? Like, the future is so bright for women in Nigeria because now more organizations are centering on us. Now more somebody said, "Oh, they were centered on the women, we're forgetting the men." But you do realize that the more women are how I put it, brought to the limelight, or the more women are actually empowered, the more families are catered for. Do you understand? And besides, the men are empowered by default. How many
the
women?
status quo.
We just know the reason why it seems like women are empowered a lot in society is because the women that are empowered go to the villages and go to the inner communities, go to the interlands and see what's happening and see how women are so trampled upon. You won't believe that in this time, 2 years ago, was it 2 years ago? Yes, 2 years ago, I did a story on a girl who escaped being forcefully married. Do you get? And it was titled in northern Nigeria, "The Life of a Girl Child Begins at 9." At 9 years, she was going to be married, and the funny thing is, her father is a graduate. Her mother was forcefully married at 8. So how is it that the mother was forcefully married at 8 and went through all those bad things and went through everything that
And
she
still
went through? She
condoned
wants
it.
the daughter to be married at 9.
So which
Do you
brings
understand?
us back to your point saying the men have a role to play
Yes,
as well. The
the
father
men-
could have
Yes.
prevented it.
Yes, the men had a very huge role to play. The girl
Alright.
actually ran away from home, actually.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much for all the work that you
welcome.
do, and thank you so much for agreeing to speak to us today
Yeah.
on reducing inequalities.
Yeah.
All right.
It's always nice to hang out with you.
Thanks to our guests for this wonderful insight on the program today. Globally, significant strides have been made towards lifting people out of hunger and poverty. However, inequalities still persist and large disparities remain and are increasing in access to income, food, land, health, and education, especially in rural areas where most of the poor people live. Don't forget to join the conversation on Twitter using the hashtag #TearsChapter4. Chapter 4 is brought to you by the Initiative for Equal Rights and holds every Thursday on Women Radio 91.7. My name is Kiki Mordi. See you next week.